Okay, good morning, everyone. It's so good to see you in person. Okay, I'm delighted to extend a warm welcome to everyone to the 8th Annual Global Language Leadership Meeting. Today, it's my great honor to have you join in our shared mission of promoting language education and global skills for students through the K through 16 continuum. My name is Ha-Kyun Lee. I'm the director of CULTR. I'd like to offer a special welcome to our distinguished guests who have joined us today. Consul General Maida, I think is not here yet, but he will come. And Oma Alewai, the Consul General of Switzerland. And Fabien Egli, Head of Public Diplomacy and Cultural Affairs, Consul General of Switzerland. Miki Nakao, thanks for coming, Vice Consul at the Consul General of Japan. And Luciana Veloso, Administrative and Cultural and Educative Affairs, Consul of the Argentina. And also our GSU colleagues, so good to see you in person, and our community partners and also advisory board members. I really appreciate for being here with us today. I'm very confident today's meeting will be filled with the fruitful discussion, valuable insights, and collaborative efforts to advance language education. Today, I'll first introduce Dr. Nicole Parsons-Pollard, Provost of Georgia State University. She will give us a welcome remarks. And then I will give a short presentation about culture, which will be followed by the lunch and today's speaker, Ms. Aiyana-Mathews' presentation. Okay, it's my utmost pleasure to introduce to you Dr. Nicole Parsons-Pollard, the Provost and Executive Vice President of Academic Affairs at Georgia State University. With a wealth of experience in academic leadership and profound dedication to academic excellence, she has been instrumental in shaping the university strategic plan, overseeing various initiatives, and fostering the environment of growth and inclusivity. She had a distinguished role of honorary co-chair of the committee responsible for crafting GSU new strategic plan. And this comprehensive plan revolves around 4 key pillars: identity, placemaking, belonging, research, scholarship, and creativity, and student success 2.0, and moving beyond college to careers. So she set to launch this fall. This plan will serve as our guiding roadmap for next decade. She earned her PhD in Public Policy Administration from Virginia Commonwealth University, where she also obtained a master's degree in criminal justice and a bachelor's degree in mass communication. Throughout her tenure, Dr. Parsons-Pollard has introduced numerous faculty development programs and enhancing teaching and research capabilities. She has also been actively involving addressing critical issues of diversity, equity, and inclusion, serving on a task force and leading initiative to promote racial equality. In addition, she has contributed to the improvement of the academic workplace and faculty engagement through various programs and committees. Please join me in extending a warm welcome to Dr. Nicole Parsons-Pollard.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everyone. Good morning. It's always very interesting when someone introduces you because you're like, well, who did all of that? So I'd like to say to our distinguished guests that are here with us in the room, as well as our conference participants, on behalf of President Blake and our more than 62,000 students, faculty, and staff, welcome to Georgia State. It's exciting to be here with you all at this year's Global Languages Leadership Meeting. If I understood correctly, is this your first in-person since COVID? Well, I think that deserves a round of applause in and of itself. I'd like to also share my appreciation for this year's keynote, Aiyana-Mathews. Thank you so much for being here with us. We are very fortunate to be able to draw from her wisdom and her expertise and her insights, and so we appreciate her being here with us today. I'd also like to thank Dr. Lee as well as Christy Winkler for their entire team. As you all probably know, to put on these kinds of events, it takes a village, and so thank you so much for the work that you did to be able to do this. Gatherings like this are a part of who Georgia State actually is. We connect with people. We connect with communities, businesses, nonprofits, governments, and educational sectors. In many respects, the activities of culture, access, advocacy, outreach, and research are a part of what Georgia State does best. See, Georgia State has a mission of being an access institution, advocating for education for all students and leveraging our outreach in the communities to provide opportunities for students to enhance their classroom experiences. And of course, we're a Research One institution. Our newly adopted strategic plan that Dr. Lee referred to has those 4 pillars that she mentioned: college to careers, innovating research, a continued focus on student success, as we've done a lot of work in this space at the undergraduate level, and now we are calling it Student Success 2.0 as we talk about how we can do the same things at the graduate level, as well as identity placemaking and belonging. The plan lays out our blueprint for the next decade. As an urban research university tied to our communities and through service, teaching, and research that benefits all. We're a global university in the heart of an international city with diverse communities, and as the university with the most diverse student body in the United States, with no race or ethnicity in the majority, we educate many who are first in their families to ever attend college. Georgia State proves that where you came from does not predict where you end up. Our strategic plan refers to Georgia State as a place for all. So I was pleased to see CULTR's identity summed up as languages for all. When we talk to those who are hiring our students today, they tell us that there are a few things that they need, and they've been saying this consistently. Students need to be able to critically think. They need to have digital literacy. They need to be able to collaborate with others, be a good team member, and they need to have cultural competencies. This is what they need to succeed in a global economy. There's no better example of a center at Georgia State which has the vision and the mission that CULTR actually has. And so I am excited of your attendance here today, to be able to hear the message of Aiyana-Mathews, to be able to gather again together after being apart from one another. I often say to people, I'm so glad to see you outside of your little box. But it also gives you an opportunity to continue the work that you all so desperately want to continue to do in the world, and that we so desperately actually need. At this time, more than others, we need to have connections with one another, and I'm glad that you are here. I hope that today you are inspired by our speakers, that you make better connections, that you reconnect with people, and that you can move us forward in the direction that we need to go in regards to language education, and that it be a benefit to all. So thank you for being here. Have a wonderful time. And I swear I'm not being rude, but I have another meeting to run to. I wish you all the best. Thank you. Thank you very much. Appreciate you. Have a wonderful time.
Thank you so much for your gracious welcome remark. Okay, so now I'm going to give a brief presentation about CULTR. Okay, so CULTR It's the only language resource center in the Southeast, and it's one of the 16 federally funded Title VI National Foreign Language Resource Center in the United States. Established in 2014 by its founder, Bill Nichols. Thanks, Bill. Bill is here with us today. CULTR has been advocating for language education and empowering underrepresented students since its inception 9 years ago. Okay, yeah. So let me introduce our team. Okay, so sometimes people ask me, where is CULTR located? We don't have our own building yet, but we are housed in the 25 Park Place, 19th floor, housed in the Department of World Languages and Culture. And I'm very fortunate to work with wonderful people. So Christy, I'm working with Christy, managing director over there, and Roy, multimedia communication specialist, and working with the team, international education consultant. And we have Ashley and Vega back there, and then outside for project coordinators. So as you see, we are the small team, but despite our small size, our team has an extraordinary level of energy and drive, resulting in a remarkable collective impact like a GLLM. So CULTR has established a distinct identity centered around meeting the needs of all students and their communities. And it actively promotes language learning opportunity as a key part of 21st century global education. In the current grant cycle, which runs through 2026, CULTR focuses on initiative to advocating advancing less commonly taught languages, which is the languages rather than commonly taught languages. So for example, Korean, Japanese, Chinese, Arabic, Russian, Urdu, Turkish as an example. So CULTR continues to play a key role in developing learning materials and providing professional development for educators and conducting research for foreign language learning. Okay, let's move on to next slide. So CULTR has 4 different central objectives: professional development for language teachers, and fostering career readiness through language study and global skill development for students, and advocating for language education among parents, schools, and community, and conducting research on less commonly taught languages. So CULTR has earned national reputation for its innovative approaches in ensuring access to language education for all students. Okay, yes. So CULTR's mission involves engaging with a diverse range of partners across various social sectors. We collaborate with university organizations and government and national security agencies, corporate and nonprofit partners, as well as representatives from advisory board members. So many of you are here with us today, and we are immensely grateful for your continued support and collaboration. Thank you very much for being part of this journey. Yeah, I'm delighted to announce that our 9th World Language Day will held again in person in October 19th. So the cornerstone event facilitates connections between high school and college students and representatives from business, nonprofit, government, and educational sectors as they showcase the vital global skills needed in their industry. So we sincerely appreciate your ongoing support and eagerly anticipate your participation, as your invaluable presence is crucial to the success of this event. Together, let us create an inspiring experience that empowers students and prepares from the ever-evolving global landscape, you can find more information about the event and how we can contribute, how you can contribute in your booklet. Okay, here's some highlights from our most recent in-person event.
What languages do you know?
I speak Spanish, so I was born in Mexico and I came here when I was 8, and I'm studying French as part of my degree.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Aston. Et toi?
I know Spanish, a little bit of French.
Hablo un poquito de español. I took a semester of Arabic. The only thing I remember is my coffee order. A lot of students have no idea what opportunities are available to them just because some companies don't immediately say, hey, yo, we will hire you if you are more likely to speak a second language, whether it's Spanish, French, Arabic, Chinese, whatever it is.
I feel very excited. I've never seen so many people come together just to learn about languages overall. I didn't even know that this was a thing.
There's a lot of great people, there's the French Alliance here, the Peace Corps is here, which is something I'm also very interested in.
CIA. I like law and government, all that stuff.
CIA. Hire my guy here. He's ready to help you out. How has a language helped you in finding any jobs prospects or even making any friends or anything like that?
The position I have with CULTR was because of my interest in language. I'm probably going to go into translation potentially with my major.
I not only want to learn about economics, but use it in a world sense. So knowing another language is only going to be beneficial in order to be able to be marketable to other countries and work in other countries.
One of the main things that stuck out to me was to just network, get yourself out there, get your name out there.
There was about 400 companies in Atlanta that were German owned.
I learned how to write my name in Arabic.
Fairs like this bring awareness to all the opportunity available to you through multilingualism and cultural competency.
Thank you.
Missy.
Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. I like this video a lot. Hope it gives you some snapshot of the event. So please save the date. Join us on October 19th. Right. Last but not least, we kindly encourage you to connect with CULTR through our newsletter, email list, and social media like Instagram and Facebook. Okay, so I smell something really nice. So as we can see on the agenda, we will now transition to lunch. Before I introduce Ms. Aiyana-Mathews, presentation, keynote speaker at 12:30. So at this time, I invite you to proceed the lobby area where you can see the buffet table is located. Please enjoy your lunch, and we will proceed with our keynote address promptly at 12:30. Thank you. So I trust you that you're very enjoying the lunch, right? Yeah, and hope no one missed a chance to taste the matcha mousse. It's still there, so if you want to get there. Yeah, thank you so much for the team of La Petite Violette. Thank you so much for helping us today. The food was wonderful. And please continue savor your meal while the speaker addresses the audience. Okay, feel free to grab more food while you're listening. Okay, let me introduce our speaker. Okay, so it's my honor to introduce today's speaker, Aiyana-Mathews, founder and president of Gardner-Mathews Global Management. And I had a pleasure of meeting her during our last World Language Week event last fall, as I delved deeper into her extraordinary talent for nurturing relationship and distinctive project and making significant contribution to the corporate and cultural realm. My curiosity grew, and compelling me to explore her stories further and share them with a broader audience. That's the motivation for having her today. I could say much more about her, but I will leave it to her presentation, so you will see. So let's warmly welcome to our speaker, Aiyana Matthew.
Minasan, konnichiwa. 私の名前は Aiyana Mathews ですけれども、よろしくお願いいたします。ありがとうね。Well, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedules to join me here with this Department for Center, or the Cultural Department, and hear my story about how I was made in Georgia and remade in Japan. It is an honor to be here and to share this experience with you today. My name is Aiyana Mathews, and I started my company back in 2010. It was initially a travel concierge, and it morphed into what is now Gardner-Mathews Global Management. I put asterisks by the multilingual. As you can hear, I do speak Japanese, sometimes English, on a good day, and hablo también español. Actually, I started my foreign language journey here in Atlanta. I'm a product of Atlanta Public Schools, and I studied Spanish for 2 years. When I graduated from Benjamin Elijah Mays High School, I was the number 2 in Spanish for the entire state for the Governor's Honors Program. I have some knowledge of Hindi and Kiswahili and Wolof that's spoken in Senegal and the Gambia, and also Ich spreche ein bisschen Deutsch. I speak a little bit of German. So throughout my life, it's been very important for me to be able to have some connection with the people who are here in Atlanta, because this is and always has been an international city, and this is what has started my journey right here. I was born in Atlanta, right in Old Fourth Ward. It's always been the happening place, not just now with the increased house prices. It's always been my home and my focal point where I've come to reset. Many of you guys may have heard about the term Grady baby. I'm it. Anybody else in the house? No? I know there are some Grady babies here. Oh, maybe not. Okay, well. Okay, yay, okay. When I was a child, I want to say around middle school age, the statistics was 1 in 7th person was originally from Atlanta. Now I can't even think of what the number is, 1 in 100, yeah. So, but we exist, we're still here, and we have been a part of the impetus of the thriving part of this international cultural city. The last time I was a resident of Georgia, this was my license plate. I know that they have Grady license plate, but I wanted mine to say Grady baby. So with the kind folks of the DMV, I'm telling you, we spent hours trying to figure this stuff out, and this is what I came up with. So I'm very proud of that, and I still have it. So imagine a 24-year relationship with something that's not a person. That's my story today. And for me, it's Japan. Remember, a 24-year relationship with not your adult child, not your parents. It may be your 1967 Chevelle that you bought, or your house that your grandparents passed down to you. But for me, it was Japan. And this journey started back in 1999 when I was a freshman at Rochester Institute of Technology. So I left Atlanta, and my first, when I went out was to Rochester. And I decided that I wanted to study abroad. And at that time, study abroad programs weren't nearly as sophisticated as they were today. I minored in Spanish and Latin American literature. So I can tell you everything about Julio Cortázar and Gabriel Maquia Cortez and Isabel Allende. I pray to meet her one day. I love her. So how in the world would somebody who had all of this Spanish background end up in Japan? So I had a conversation with the director of my program, and I decided that I wanted to do more than what the 2-week offering was in Europe and the 1-month stay in Central America or Mexico. And I wanted to actually focus on my area of concentration, which was printing management and technology. RIT was #1 in the world for that concentration. So talked to the director of the program, and he actually advised me that RIT had a relationship with Chiba Daigaku. And it was a university in Japan. No one had ever done this exchange in 1999, and they had it in place for about 10 years before I came. And that was in April when I had that conversation of '99. In fall, I was in Japan. I decided to do a comparative research study. My background is a combination of fine art, science, and engineering, and business as well. And so soy-based inks were being introduced into the American market. And I'm all about sustainability and recycling because we have to protect this earth, right? And with Japan being so advanced with technology, it only made sense for me to take my RIT, well, my 1 year at RIT, and go to Chiba. And I actually matriculated as an international research scholar in the Faculty of Engineering. So with me being the first student to participate in this exchange, there was no one for me to really ask questions to. So I went out there cold. Like, no one knew where the university was, like how it would go. It was just I was going to Japan. And for me, that was enough. That was enough. So here's the title of my research, which was Rheological Properties of Printing Inks, which in layman's terms just translate to, for example, rheology is the deformation and flow of matter. So for example, when you're brushing your teeth, you put the toothpaste on, it starts off as a solid. But as you apply shear rate, it turns more into a liquid. That's the area of focus that I did for soy-based inks and compared that to lithography and gravure. Y'all still with me, right? All right, let's move on. So here is me just getting off the plane in Narita Kuko in 1999. Come on, I was excited. I had no idea where I was, what I was gonna do, where I was going from there, but take this picture, let's go. And so the program that I was a part of was called JPAC, which stands for Japan Program at Chiba. And it was a diverse body of students, and also we had different areas of concentrations. Mine was in printing. Here's a Chinese student. I can't remember actually she was studying hair follicles and different chemicals that affect the bone density of the skull. So we were all very, very interesting. I met Bulgarians, students from Saudi Arabia, from the Philippines. I mean, it was a really international program. And I'm really happy and proud to say that Chiba still has this program today. And you may be asking, Chiba is also known as a top national university. So it's ranking right now in 2023 in the top 20 in the country. Because we didn't have to speak Japanese, our professors actually lectured in English. The gentleman to the left here, that is Amari Sensei, and he was the director over the Department of Rheology. And he assigned this woman to help me get acclimated into Chiba University. Remember, I didn't speak any Japanese, I spoke Spanish. So I felt sorry for her. Because she had to show me around and, get me set up and try to help me, learn the ways around the Kinkyujutsu, the laboratory. And she was so instrumental in my introduction to Japan. Her name is Fumiko, And she taught me everything, from how to use chopsticks, from the different types of food, from culture and history. And she also made me feel very a part of her family. And she's here. This is real life. 24 years ago, I went to Japan, and these are the things that I learned about myself after freshman year at RIT. I learned that I can digest a lot of complex information and translate it into layman's terms to make it more feasible and easy to digest. This is very important when you're doing business. No one wants to feel like you're talking over their head and you're trying to be so smart. It does nothing, right? You're kind of like defeating the purpose. That was very helpful in my research and data analysis. I learned how to write Japanese. I took an introduction to modern Japanese history, and I learned how to write hiragana, katakana, and very basic kanji. Japanese has 3 writing systems, and I mastered the first 2, and the Chinese-based one, kanji, that took a little bit longer. But most importantly, I was very impressed by the value system of Japanese society. I think it was Hitachi at the time where there was a supposed layoff, and the CEO of the company took a pay cut so no one had to be laid off. And I thought, wow, what kind of place is this? But they doing stuff like that. I also remember during orientation where our career counselor said, many of you come from countries where you look down on people because of their jobs, if there are helpers or janitors. In Japan, everyone is a contributing member of our society. And that really impressed me a lot. Because if you look at people as everybody contributes to your society, then no one's better or less. And everyone has a function and a role and a responsibility to be in that role to make your country better. Japan felt like home. I finished my research in 2000, and I had to come back to America. You know, I still had a degree to finish at RIT. And I graduated with my Bachelor's of Science. And I moved back to Atlanta upon getting a job in the area of my field. I actually graduated and worked in the printing industry. Yay! And so, and I moved back home. But while I was at RIT, I was able to still interact with the international students, which kept me close to the Japanese students. But when I came back to Atlanta, this was different. I had to network from a career standpoint. And so my first introduction back to Japanese here in Atlanta was actually through the Consul General of Japan here in Atlanta. So 24 years ago, I established a relationship with this entity here in Atlanta. And I also learned more about the organization, Japan American Society of Georgia, which both of those organizations have been very influential in supporting me in my efforts and endeavors of promoting Japanese culture, not only in Atlanta, but throughout the Southeast. Oh, excuse me. Mr. Joji Hisayada-san, he was the first Japanese consul general I ever met of any country. And he hosted events. His lovely wife, Midori Hisayada-san, everyone has been awesome, but these were the first people that welcomed me into the Japanese community here. I started learning about Japanese business. I started learning about networking. I started learning about the Japanese, what Japanese were doing here in the state of Georgia, not just even at Atlanta. I followed Hisayada-san's career as he progressed to become the ambassador of Japan in Oman, and I actually had the privilege of visiting them in the Middle East. which was amazing. In my personal travels, it was important for me to stay connected with Japanese. But, of course, I hablo español también. So during one trip to Peru, imagine I'm going into a neighborhood and I run into something, I see all of this Japanese, and half of it I can read and the other half I can't. So I just go inside, and there's a community center. And these cute, wonderful, just happy, doing their own thing, Issei, which are Japanese, first-generation born Japanese in Peru, were there. They spoke zero Spanish. So I pulled from my introduction courses of Japanese at Chiba Daigaku, and I was able to introduce myself to them. These folks are in their late 80s, early 90s. And then afterwards I could say, "O shashin tatte ii desu ka?" And that's how I was able to get this picture, because I asked in Japanese, can I take a picture with them? After initiating a career in the printing industry, I transitioned to the airline industry and decided that, this thing of Japan keeps tugging at me, and I want to move back. How can I get back? I got to go. So in 2007, I left, and I joined the JET program, which stands for Japan Exchange and Teaching. To me, it is the equivalent of the Fulbright. We are implemented into Japanese society, and we work in 3 functions. You have the ALT, which is the assistant language teacher, the CIR, which is the coordinator for international affairs, and they actually work at the mayor's office. And you have the SEA. It's related to sports. I've never met anyone who's actually done it. Any JET person can tell me what SEA? What kind of? Sports, education, advocacy. Me no wakana. Because I've never met anyone who joined the JET program under that, but there are 3 components. And so when I first went to Japan, I was here in Chiba. And then when I got accepted in the JET program, I moved all the way up here to Miyagi. Now, Fumiko-san is from here, Mie. It's a little bit far. So my Japanese family wasn't very happy that I was so far away from them, but I had comfort knowing that I did have a base in Japan. And being that I had traveled back and forth all of these years, from 1999 to 2000, this was just me living back in Japan. And to me, I was most happy about the fact that I could tell people where I lived and they knew it because they had watched Karate Kid. So here's some interesting statistics about the town I live. It's called Shikamacho. And my position was ALT, Assistant Language Teacher. And these are all the responsibilities that I had in that small town. So I was busy, which turned out to be very useful in how time management, how to be flexible, how to maintain a schedule, and be on top of things and know what to expect. At the elementary school, it was fun. English language was to be taught through games and interactions. And sometimes they would take over themselves, and they'd be teaching me. And it was very basic, numbers, days of the week, feelings, it's cold, it's hot, things like that. It was also important for the Japanese students to see me as one of them. So this teacher thought it was really cool if they dressed me up in full kimono and do a photo shoot at the school. In autumn, because Tohoku is very known and famous from many years ago for the rice cultivation. So I participated in harvesting rice with the students, and I also learned the importance of rice in the society. And this is a picture of me in my first year, probably months after I arrived, at the Shikama Town Sports Day. So it's the equivalent of Morningside competing against Emmons Park. So I got a funny story to tell y'all. I just got here. The next day, the following year, when I decided to extend my contract and remain in Shikama, I found out that I had been signed up to participate. I didn't do that. So there was a gentleman by the name of Hayasaka, Mr. Hayasaka, and he was more like the superintendent of the apartment where I lived. On this day, he'd signed me up. So I was told that I should be at the junior high school and that I was going to run the relay. Oh, okay. So in good faith, I go in to participate, and I go pack up my stuff and I walk home. A few hours later, some of my elementary school kids come and knock on my door, and through gestures and simple Japanese and me just saying, okay, I followed them to what would be like our clubhouse for the apartment complex. And here's Mr. Hayasaka sitting at the end of this very long table with every Japanese food you can think of, all these bottles of sake, nihonshu, and I'm like, wait, what is going on? And Aiyana say, kite, like that. So I go and sit next to him. And so they pull out a trophy. I found out that our community won the Shikama Sports Day. I also found out the other neighborhoods were mad because why would you get the foreigner with the long legs to run the race, and that's not fair. But that celebration that I joined Hayasaka-san would be the first of many celebrations that I would participate with people that I live with in my community. Now, in the junior high school, I had to take a different approach because this was more getting them prepared for junior high school, I had to get them prepared for English for high school. And there was a Japanese teacher of English who was responsible for that learning. So, how can I make an impact in this very small amount of time where they're spending the majority of the time learning grammar and vocabulary? And I don't want to just do read and repeat. I want to do more. And being a person who has learned languages, I understand these four parts of speech. And at different levels of your foreign language acquisition, one is bigger or higher than the other. I also understand that some people are just better at these parts of speech than others, and that's just how it is. It was important for me also to look at the room and realize that if I position people in groups and put the person that's strong in writing and strong in reading, that this could be successful and everybody as a team can feel like I can speak English, because that was a huge challenge in living in the countryside of Japan. So I took on teaching presentations and using things that were familiar with Japanese culture, such as matsuri, festivals. Who doesn't love a party? American holidays that were very famous, and also cultural events. At the time I was living there, the World Cup was happening. I tried to make everything internationally based. So here's a picture of an international room that I created. And here's a list of all the notary events that I've done in the 3 years when I was a JET, or on the JET program. From coming in and helping to coach and train a student where she went to the nationals in the English speech competition for the entire country. So I was really proud of that. All the way to different workshops and conferences that I was either presenter or co-organizer, organizer of. My favorite, because everybody loved it, were my cultural events. I decided that just being in the classroom wasn't enough, and just having interaction with the people that had to interact with me wasn't enough. I wanted to meet more people, and I want other Japanese people to have the opportunity to meet foreign expats and JETs. So I started doing my own monthly cultural events. I did it for 3 years. I did a different event every year for 3 years and only repeated one event, and that was by request, and it was the International Wine and Cheese Party. Because somebody heard about it, and they were like, I wasn't there, so you have to do that again. Okay. So the purpose was to highlight English-speaking countries in the world and really do something different through and reach the Japanese through taste. So here's a picture of all my participants for the Kenyan fish curry party. I was very impressed with Japanese obi. Like the style and tying them is really beautiful. I got the bright idea that this reminds me of head wraps. So I did a workshop on Senegalese head wraps at the Miyagi Art and Culture Show. It was the most attended workshop that this show had ever had in its existence. And when I joined, it was in this 5th year. I was asked to be the coordinator to find more interesting workshop presenters like myself and also do the event again. The 3rd year, I was the director of this show. And here's a picture of Miss Chiba. She's actually an artist of this old art style called cutting picture. And she's actually been published many times. I had so much fun being a samurai, I can't tell you. Samurai 4 days, sign me up. This is a picture of me at the Aoba Matsuri, which is the 2nd largest festival in the Tohoku region in the northern area. And a friend of mine, her dad actually was like, let's get Aiyana in the parade. Wouldn't that be cool? Say less. At the end of that festival, I had a chance to meet the 45th generation descendant of a daimyo feudal lord, Date Masamune. His heritage is such that they really developed the Tohoku region. So it was an honor to meet him. So what did I learn during that time at JET? I did my job, but I did more. And so these are the skills that I realized that I'm really good at this. So I took what I learned at Chiba, because I had a learning curve there, and then I added this to it. But I had to come back home. I did 3 years, and my contract was up with the Shikama Board of Education. And I decided that I would open a company that would still keep me connected with Japan, because I had experiences with all of these wonderful festivals that highlighted music and art and nature. And I'm like, everybody should know about this, not just going to Japan to see Tokyo or Osaka and stuff like that. So I came up with a company called Gardner-Mathews Global Concierge. Thank you so much. This is a highlight of a really beautiful festival that takes place in Sendai. And my catchphrase for the company was showing you the world one festival at a time. So that way I could break free of these, what's your target audience? First of all, who doesn't love a festival? Everybody does. And then festivals highlight different things, again, ranging from music to art. In this case, it's just culture, and it's just beautiful. I shot that video, actually. And so I started going back and forth to Japan, highlighting the festivals and encouraging people to travel to Japan and actually being a part of those experiences. So the company Gardner-Mathews, in honor of my maternal and paternal grandfathers, because I agonized over a name. What was I going to call this? What was I going to be proud of, many years later? And I opted to go with my grandfathers to honor them, which was in line with what the Japanese do. They always show honor. And it's also part of our heritage, too, in showing honor to our ancestors. So I couldn't think of a better way. That was in August of 2011 when I started the company. Shortly thereafter, the tragic earthquake happened. This impacted my business severely and impacted me personally. Fumiko-san, I lost contact with everybody that I knew. I had 2 clients in Japan at that time, and my phone was blowing up from people asking me where was I, to those clients' emergency contacts asking them where their loved ones were. So it was really, really tough during that time. I wanted to help so bad, and but I was here, and I did what I could to continue in sharing the Japanese experience and saying Japan will come back. It will come back, because it's such a strong and dedicated country. I want to pay tribute to Onodera-san. He was the fire captain of the Ishinomaki Fire Department, and he lost his life. But with all of this change and all of this pivot, this is the first pivot of my company, I learned that let me stay true to my strong points, which would be introducing people, improving processes, business development, sales, and marketing. And that after feeling more comfortable at speaking Japanese, I was pretty good at this thing called foreign languages. After being asked by a lot of businesses here in the state of Georgia, in the state of Florida, and other entities in different industries, I started getting pulled on very special, personalized projects that they would have to hire a whole team to do what I know how to do. And I've changed the company name from Travel Concierge to Global Management to incorporate these new service offerings for the business community. I wanted people to actually do business with Japanese. Yes, it's intimidating. Yes, the language is hard. Oh my God, the culture, who knew all that stuff? But I knew that I could help facilitate that. And so I said, why don't I add this and offer this to businesses so that they can strive and work well with them? So the concept of, my concept of JBiz emerged. And I started doing business in Florida. So maintaining relationships with the dignitaries in that area was very important. This video is actually a documentary for the 30th year anniversary for Japan Fest, which is the largest festival showcasing Japanese culture in the Southeast. And they invited me to be their host for that. So if you guys want to scan to see that full documentary, I won't even take the chance of trying to play the video again. But it goes into the history of how Japan Week morphed into Japan Fest and became a festival that has about 25,000 attendees every September. And if you have never been, I highly, highly implore, zehi kite kudasai. With the business projects that I was now assigned with, I decided I wanted to share the information, and I knew how important it was to have internships when I was in college. So why not give that and offer that to students? I've worked with Georgia State University. I've had Georgia State University students as my interns. I've worked with various colleges. And I also understood the importance of having a diverse workforce and providing them with opportunities so that they could have their resume strengthened when they went out to the job market. That's what helped me. And I also got, of course, introduced them to Japanese. So they are writing their names and different phrases in katakana and hiragana. And this is in Disney, Tokyo Disney, no, Florida, Disney, no, Disney Springs, Disney Springs. I hosted interns. They range from, of course, American students, Colombia, South Africa, Cote d'Ivoire, and the Philippines. My partnership with the Valencia College is something I'm really proud of because Within 45 days of returning home to their home country and looking for work, I have a 100% success rate of them finding gainful employment in their area of concentration. Being a JET, I got involved with the JET alumni program, and this is me speaking in Washington, D.C., where the ambassador of Japan attended our presentation. And as you can see, I was talking about being an entrepreneur and how Japan expired that entrepreneurship, and for me to continue on when I returned to America. I was a part of a panel to help JET returnees with the Career Development Workshop, and that was in collaboration with Sasakawa USA Foundation. Here's an image at Space Florida with 19 Japanese businesses that attended my summit that I organized, which was a 3-day summit. And the purpose of this particular event was business matchmaking. They wanted to, and they were seeking partnerships with Floridian-based companies in the area of aerospace and aviation. And I hosted that. There's a picture of all of my attendees. And also the gentleman in the center, this is Congressman Darren Soto. He joined us for lunch that day at NASA. So what have I learned? That these experiences you cannot get from an app. You can't get it from Google Translate. You can't get it through osmosis. Language is a living thing. You have to interact with people, and it does not put you in a small box of just in the education realm. That was one of my challenges when I graduated from high school. What was I going to do with this Spanish? Because I was told, go be a Spanish teacher. There's nothing wrong with that. But my personality, I knew I wanted to do more, and I wanted to be global. And so imparting the business component, I've been able to do exactly what I wanted to do. It took me some, curves and twists, but I'm here, and I'm so happy. And if anybody would have told me that going to Japan in 1999, 24 years ago, was going to be the start of that trajectory, I would have believed them. I really would have believed them. And so I've taken what I've learned with the Japanese culture, with Japanese language, and I've built genuine relationships, really honed in on culture, and I've had an insight. I feel like I'm kind of like a stalker, seeing everything from the outside, like I'm not supposed to know, but I'm welcome to know these things. And then pair that with the things that I've learned throughout my experiences and through my studies and my mistakes and my successes. I proceed to do business with confidence in these areas. And I look forward to helping others be successful in areas like Japan, as I have. Whew, that was hard. Had put 24 years of my life into a slideshow, and that's just Japan. And so I look forward to your questions that you may have. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Hazukashii desu. I don't know who is manning the. Pardon?
Well, yeah, you can choose.
Okay.
Okay, as a Korean, as a neighboring country of Japan,
Yes.
I was very, very impressed. Okay, even as a Korean to understand Japanese, Japan is very difficult because of the cultural difference.
Yes, you're exactly
But
right.
you, I cannot believe that. How could you, have the insight? Okay, this is amazing. So, 30 or 40 years ago, there's a movie, Shogun. Have you seen the movie?
Mita koto nai. I
Yeah,
haven't
the
seen
Shogun.
it.
As a white American, at the time, the white European visit Japan, he was chosen as a general of Japan. So he was very successful. He had an unbelievable experience over there. Yeah. So I think you are the lady Shogun. Okay. Thank you.
I'll take it. I'll take it. Sign me up. Thank you. Thank you very much. Chamaleo.
I just want to say you're an inspiration, and just hearing what you've done and where you've done it is just blows my mind. Blows my mind because for English speakers, I think we're very sometimes limited in the areas we think we can go to. So now that takes me to my question, because I met your mother, your beautiful mother,
Yes.
earlier on today, and I was right, that as soon as I see her, I'll know where she gets it from. We're talking about how if you don't speak a language, your heart or your mind space can be communicated, and people are drawn to you because of that, even though you don't speak the language. My question to you is, how have you navigated those waters where sometimes, if you have, felt like there's a barrier? I feel like I don't fit in. You talked about like I'm a stalker looking in to places that maybe I shouldn't be. So when you see that or when you encounter that, how have you navigated those waters? How have you overcome that? Because you're successful, in that place.
So in the languages I'm not proficient at?
No, in the language, in Japan, and in the language you've so mastered with the culture and how have you ever felt that? And if you have, how have you overcome it? Where you feel like there's a barrier, but I need to build this relationship to get in here because I belong here or I'm doing something here.
That's a very challenging question because just my personality, I don't ever feel like I don't belong. Yeah, I come in and I'm very respectful. First, you can't just go in and say, oh, just because I know the language, I'm just going to bogart my way in here. There's a way of doing things. And so kind of like choto, like doing things slowly. And there's an expression in Japanese called kukyo yumeru, reading the air. You have to read the air, and when it may just be time to exit, or it may just be time to just keep nudging. Like I said, building genuine relationships. You just can't dump everything of who you are on somebody. It might be overwhelming, right? But in the instances where I have encountered challenges, it's usually a conversation. It's usually a conversation. And that has tended to resolve a lot of things. Yes. But thank you for your question. I appreciate it. Yes?
Hi, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you doing, madam?
I'm well. So it's just interesting. When I was based in Egypt, I happened to have met, the Japanese community, and, during the Egyptian Jazz Festival, there was the presence of Japanese jazz musicians. One well-known who was a saxophonist who was inspired by Charlie Parker and Billie Holiday. And so we've had this beautiful presentation of your immersion into Japanese culture. But I wanted to know if while you were there and in your current studies, have you also taken a liking to highlight how Japanese people and Japanese culture have embraced Black American art forms such as jazz and hip-hop and any other things? I remember being a student at Spelman College, and there was this beautiful exhibition in the art museum of an artist, a Japanese woman artist, who had intermixed her culture with Black American culture. And so she had these different murals of showing Japanese and Black American women's culture kind of immersed together. And outside of, Black American scholars who studied jazz and all these other things, the Japanese are the second group of people who actually study jazz music and write scholarship on jazz music. So I wanted to know if you, while you ventured into their world, did you also see opportunities of them coming into your culture and into your world as well? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Very interesting. There's actually a Japanese word called wafrika. Wa is a Japanese kanji that symbolizes Japan, and the Africa part, Frika, wafrika. There is a Blue Note in Tokyo that I've visited many times and heard some incredible American jazz artists and even more so talented Japanese jazz artists. In Sendai, which is the closest major city where I live, remember I live in a really small, like a pueblo, it's like 7,000 people. But they have a jazz festival there that's very well attended. I want to say about 2 million people come. Yeah, it's a big deal because everyone in that whole region, the Tohoku area, they come there. And I've actually known musicians to participate and join that festival. On the flip side, I also know Africans of the diaspora. And just a small note, to date, I haven't met anybody of the diasporan community that is not fluent in Japanese. I play a game with myself when I go back to Japan. It's like, Nihongo hanashimasu ka? Like, mochiron yo. Like, do you speak Japanese? Well, of course I do. And it's just kind of like, yeah, all right. There was a Cameroonian guy who worked for, I want to say Nissan. He was a designer for the automobile. And he came up with taking African textile and making these incredible kimono. I mean, like something you've never seen before. So there's a lot of that cross-cultural that does take place. But the key is everything doesn't fall in your lap. Sometimes you have to go and seek it out. You have to do research. It's like when you do research for the language, you have to research the culture too and the things that you like. Thank you.
Hi, I want to thank you for sharing your journey with us. So interesting.
Thank you.
Yes, and I have to say that I appreciate that you're a Grady baby. My mom was a Grady nurse for 50 years.
Yay.
She was actually a graduate of the Grady Nursing School, which no longer exists. So that touched me from the very beginning.
I had you at Grady BB.
Yes. So there are many of us in the audience who are tasked with supporting language studies, right, and language acquisition. And I'm so impressed with your willingness to expose yourself to different languages. Obviously, global company, you are, getting exposed to a lot of different languages. So I think that's wonderful. So I'm wondering, if you could let us know, what's the most unique method of language learning that you've come across, and how has it helped you?
Thank you so much for your question. So my Spanish teacher gave me extra assignments when I was in high school. Back then when there was only the cassette tape, she gave me Toni Braxton's Unbreak My Heart in Spanish. And she says, please write down the lyrics to this song. There was no Google. Back then, there was no YouTube with the lyrics on. There was no Shazam. Like all these things I use so much now. Oh man, I could have got that a lot faster than that. But so she gave me that tape, and I remember listening to it over, and it forced me. I had to listen, tune everything out, and put words together and write down what I didn't know, and spell them correctly because that was a part of my grading. So, transcending to Japanese, a lot of things are repetitive. I worked my office was in the Board of Education at City Hall. So a lot of things were very repetitive. So through repetition, I was learning, but I also said, I want to make a connection culturally with this language through music. So there is a folk song type called Inca. And one of my favorite songs came on the radio one day, and it was remade by this Japanese artist called Ua. And I did the same thing. I started listening to this folk music. And then when I went to karaoke, you can imagine a jaw drop. Like, what? I mean, it's like a Japanese person singing Etta James. So I would do that, but it forced me to listen and really tune in to the sounds and recognize words. And through ballads in that fashion, I do the same for Spanish. I listen to old salsa and really get familiar with the words and the rhythm. And the soul of the language is always in the music. So thank you so much for asking that question.
Hi, hello.
Hi.
Very lovely to meet you, and thank you so much for that presentation. I operate from a place of assertiveness, so I just want to come straight out and say I have never felt, trying to keep it together, I have never felt more seen as a Black woman who is engulfed in Asian culture, business, linguistics. Your background and just your matriculation and everything is so similarly aligned to mine from Korean culture. So I actually am a Korean linguist. I did ESL teaching in Korea. I was a Korean linguist in the Army, and I love Korean dramas. Yeah. And so, I literally just yesterday when I was picking up my rental from Hertz, there was an older Korean couple that came in and accidentally parked in the Hertz lot, and the management team kept trying to explain in business terms to them that they would get towed. And I was just like, I just kind of say, talk to him like this is not a parking lot, whatever. He was like, oh my goodness, but was able to do that in Korean. And I hadn't spoken Korean in a very long time. But to literally be able to that it's just a part of me to where you're talking about, you just talked about how you did it through music. I do that through watching Korean dramas and listening to K-pop. I love K-pop. And so I just wanted to say, for a very long time, I felt like I was just like this outlier and was made to feel like I'm doing too much or I don't belong or, and so just to see you standing up here and especially being a dark-skinned woman and in this space, I'm being honest, I just feel... Thank you. You're welcome. And so as I'm here transitioning, back to Atlanta, thank you. Feel your feelings, right? Yeah. Starting my graduate program in international business, and I haven't even, just when you're talking about the person I am, my program doesn't start until August, y'all, but I'm in here.
Get ahead.
I met Epoch Saddam at a global symposium that was the only person, but that's how I am. Like you're saying, I'm going to do the research. I'm going to do strategic planning and figure out where I need to be, the people I need to connect with, because I know what I want to do. And I just wanted to know, I know this might be personal, but for me, there's so many things that I still want to do. How do you, I don't know if you have a family or if you have children or anything like that, but I'm now a twin mom. Have children, and
congratulations!
Thank you.
And take them to Korea to live.
That's the plan. But for me, I wanted to know how has your actual, just going through everything I just said, your personal relationships with your family, or even if you don't have to get too deep, with intimate partnership relationships, because I've dealt a lot with people who can't take, because that there takes a certain level of intellect to be able to be a linguist, right?
Yes.
And I speak Spanish too. I study Spanish. I was an international baccalaureate student. So that's what I mean. That's why I'm over here crying, y'all.
Wow.
I've never met anybody, I'm not kidding, anybody else where it has been this type of experience. So how have your relationships, over the years have been for the better or for the worse, just being you? Does that make sense?
It makes sense.
Okay.
So that was 24 years in a slideshow. Now you ask me to do longer. I can't. I just got to go to work. Let me see. My first inspiration was my grandmother. She told me, go, Aiyana, see things I could not dream of. Okay. Why are we all crying up in here? Can I get a tissue, please? Thank you. Arigato gozaimasu. You're welcome. That's for me. Gracias, señorita. So yeah, grandmama, she was very supportive. And my family, many of them are actually present here today. They're sprinkled throughout. I guess that could have been an icebreaker. Find Aiyana's family. But a lot of them had no idea what the heck I was doing. She just gone. And I remember some years back, I went to my mom, and I had to thank her because she brought me to a certain point. And then it became where it's like all this unique stuff that I was doing and I wanted to do. And she was so supportive of everything. She never told me no. My father never told me no. Aiyana, if you can do this, and whatever support that they were able to help, they did it. And then I had to be resourceful, research, tenacity, and actually not saying, oh yeah, I want to do it someday, having a deadline and a goal. And I did it. Beyond that, there have been a lot of challenges. I'm not, you don't look like all that stuff. I don't let that bother me because I'm here and I know what I know. And there's a whole community that has accepted me. They recognize my skills. They've put me to work. They have made a lot of my dreams come true. And so I would just say the naysayers, you just have to just cut them off. I mean, that's really what it boils down to. And you don't focus on that. You focus on the support. My partner has been supportive of me. My family has been supportive of me. I've lived in Japan twice. I came back, went back. I kept traveling back and forth. And I've done that in other countries throughout the Middle East and Africa and all of South America and Europe. I think the only continent, are Antarctica and Australia. And I've never let anyone tell me, oh, well, that's too far. It should go, enjoy, come back and tell us. You guys are actually getting a full presentation. They don't even get that. they may get a picture on Facebook. And so, and with your babies, I know the saying is start young. But I learned all of my languages. I'm like that bust out of all the stereotypes. I'm an African-American woman, born here in Atlanta, educated here in Atlanta, to Black parents, and I did not learn my languages at a young age. I got exposed. I was exposed to it. And I speak Japanese. I studied a little bit. I speak Spanish fluently. I've never lived in a Latin American country. So how is that? Because people say, oh yeah, you have to go live in the country and be immersed and you have to have foreign parents. So what's my excuse? Exactly. And I love it. I feel at home. This center has made me feel at home because it embodies all of its missions and its core is exact. I wish it existed when I was coming out of Mays. I would have been right up here easily. Maybe come back. I don't know. But so I'm very happy in this international city that we have with all of these international companies, not little companies, we got the big boys. There's 700 Japanese companies in the state of Georgia. 700. That's a lot. Go get you a job. So there are opportunities all around you. And so you just keep moving forward. I got my contact. You want to call me? Please do. So thank you very, very much for y'all's time. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you so much, Aiyana, for a wonderful and inspiring talk. It was really enlightening. And sorry, the cultural team didn't prepare enough Kleenex. We didn't expect anybody crying for the GLM presentation. And Nikki, you'll be our next one. Thank you so much for sharing your stories.
Yes.
Okay, thanks again, everyone. So I'd like to close the event, but please feel free to continue having conversation and networking. So in closing, I'd like to thank you, everyone, for your presence and active participation at GLLM 2023. Your engagement and contribution have made this gathering successful. But we don't stop here. The knowledge and idea that we shared here will inspire further discussion and action that will positively impact our endeavors. And although the official program has to come to close, but we encourage you guys to keep conversations and network going. And in about 5 minutes, let's take a picture together. So we will gather at the lobby area for a group photo. So we kindly invite you to join us. Okay. But again, however, please remember to stay engaged in networking and continue conversations as a space is still available to us by 5, I guess. Yeah. And thank you so much for your support. And one last thing, if you refer to page 15 in your booklet, there's a QR code for post-survey. So your feedback will be very appreciated for preparing next event. And also, please feel free to take the stretch ball, the glove. That's for we prepare for you. Yeah. Yes. Okay. Thank you so much, everyone, and we'll see you in the lobby area for picture. Appreciate it.